Here we are at Farnborough. We're now taxiing onto the runway. Thinking another display. One of the things that we need to bear in mind for the A400 when we're doing the display is we're actually doing it with about 17 tons of flight test equipment on board, which is pretty much a C-130 load, and 10 tons of fuel. So carrying 25, 27 tons above the basic weight of the airplane. Listening to air traffic, waiting to get the clearance for the takeoff. Should be any moment now. Okay, and off we go. Accelerating down the runway. First call from Charlie Mai, who's the co-pilot, is 80 knots. Getting near to the takeoff point. Rotation. Gear coming up, turning 70 degrees off the line. And now pulling up into I would say a tactical departure, getting away from the airfield and climbing as quickly as we can. Next target is 1000, pushing over to level, taking the power off a little bit, and then setting ourselves up to turn back towards the display line. You can see that the airplane is pretty maneuverable. Just immediately after takeoff, turning back, doing about probably 120 knots or so at this stage, and then positioning ourselves and descending back towards the center point of the display. This is maneuvering now on the display line, pulling back, turning around about 2G, climbing up back to the 180 degree point, just showing the maneuverability of the airplane. It was quite a windy day here at Farnborough, winds up to 20 to 30 knots, so in this section of the display I was having to reduce the bank a bit to track a little bit more upwind, as you can see here, and then turning again to come back down onto the display point and to stay on the center line. Okay. Here's just turning just a little bit to be in the right position for the center point of the display. You can see, if you ever come to the display, there's those orange boards that mark the center point for Farnborough. And then turning again, showing the bottom of the airplane to the crowd as we climb back up to about 1,000 feet and set ourselves up for the low-speed pass. It's not, I would say, a low-speed pass in a conventional sense, because what I'm trying to show here is the capability of the airplane to fly slow, as if it was doing helicopter air-to-air refueling. So I'm configuring, slowing down, and we'll now turn back in to position ourselves for a pass at 100 knots. So you can see, compared to many airplanes that do this particular maneuver, where they are really at high alpha and just hanging on to the power and the props, we're actually not so far away from level attitude, which is a really good stable platform to put the hoses out and for the helicopters to come up behind us. So the next point is we apply power, accelerate just a little bit, and then pull up into a 45-degree bank turn to come back on the display line. It just shows the incredible capability of the flight control system, that I can do this using the protection systems, being able to just pull up at slow speed, turn in a very, very tight turn here, coming back to point back towards the display line. And as we get back, pointing back, I start a descent and we start to accelerate. Accelerating here, starting to bring the flaps up. Flaps coming back to about 2 at this point, and then turning, climbing up to 2,000 feet. Speed gets back to about VLS at the top point. VLS is the minimum maneuver speed. then as we reach that point, banking to about 90 degrees to turn quickly back towards the display line, and then easing off, starting to accelerate, flaps moving from 2 to 1, looking for the display line now as we're actually descending. And once I can see that display line, I can really go for it, keeping the power on, flaps coming up to 0, and then running in along the crowd line at 280 knots. So 280 knots is the speed, nominal speed that we can fly low level, or in fact nominal sort of speed that we could do air-to-air refueling with a fighter. So they're passing the crowd, simulating next a TGS maneuver, a train warning, pulling full back stick, pulling the nose up, clearing the obstacle which is ahead of us, now well clear, wanting to get back to low altitude, banking over 120 degrees. It's great, I love to do that maneuver. And then easing back down towards the display line again. So once again, really super airplane for low-level flying. Really stable, really agile, and here coming back for the final return to the display line. And then I offset 40 degrees, 1 mile out from the touchdown point, 1,000 feet, make the turn in then and configure to make a landing. Okay. So here we are getting to our turning point for the final landing. Again, because I'm sitting on the left-hand side, looking for the finals turn, but in fact with the system, with the turn predictor I've got on my flight displays, it really helps me a lot to be able to manage the bank angle, to be able to roll out exactly on the inbound heading for final approach. So most of the flying, or all the flying I'm doing is on the head-up display, but occasional glancing down to my navigation display just to see what my positioning is, to get a few references for angles, and but most of the time obviously looking out and getting the position right and looking at the speeds in the head-up display. And here coming in on the final approach for Farnborough. It's a tactical military airplane, so one of the tasks of the military airplane is to land on a short unpaved field. We're still in the development phase for the anti-skid system and the reverse, but this gives you a preview of the sort of performance that we could expect from the airplane. So touchdown, full brakes, going into reverse and stopping in a pretty short distance. So it's not bad. And then once we've come to a halt, it could be on a short strip. There may not be a turning circle on that strip. So the next task that I'm trying to demonstrate here, that one of the real advantages of propellers is that we can reverse taxi with ease. It's part of a basic capability of any turboprop airplane. And with this type of engine, with a particle separator which we got below the engine, it means we really don't have a problem with FOD. Normal show, we open the rampart door just to prove to people that we really have a full cargo compartment there, and that we did all of that display with about 25 tons above the minimum weight of the airplane. And that's pretty much the end of the show.